The Cleveland Guardians are in hot water, and today it's up to me to rebuild them. Most of the time when I choose to rebuild a team, it's because they were either really bad in real life or lost miserably in the playoffs, but the Guardians are a different story. The bombshell finally dropped that Emmanuel Clase is going to prison, and he will also be joined by a fellow young up-and-coming player in Luis Ortiz. This is the biggest scandal in MLB since Wander Franco was caught gloving a 12-year-old girl, and this will put the Guardians in a really weird spot. In his 4.5 years in the league, Clase has been nothing short of a lockdown closer, posting his best season in 2024. He is a 3-time All-Star and a 2-time reliever of the year, who the Guardians saw as a key piece of their core moving forward. While Clase is the bigger loss between the two players, though, Luis Ortiz had some value on his own, coming over from the Pirates, where he put up a really good season in 2024 as well. Just like Clase, he also projected to be a huge part of this team's future, and while MLB The Show has not yet added a feature that allows you to send players to prison, making both of these players 0 overall is effectively the same punishment. That is really going to cloud this team's long-term future, especially as Steven Kwan is rumored to be on the trade block, while Lane Thomas and 38-year-old Carlos Santana are free agents. MLB The Show starts us out in 2025, so we do need to sim to the present day, and when we do, I'm actually a little bit concerned about this team's future. Despite making the playoffs the previous 2 seasons, there are some concerns with the Guardians, as their rotation is young, but also does not have a very high ceiling. Their ace is Tanner Beebe, who at least is pretty good in his own right, but we're really counting on the development of Gavin Williams, and Ben Lively and John Means are okay. Then in the bullpen, Cade Smith will be moving over to the closer role in place of Clase, and while the bullpen is alright, we could use another high-leverage reliever. Then on offense, we're projected to lose Steven Kwan, Santana, and Lane Thomas, and aside from Jose Ramirez, this is a really young, unproven lineup. I am hoping that some players, such as my former classmate at Washington State University, Kyle Manzardo, can step it up. Now I will say that this man does not know me at all, or even knows that I exist, but during college I did have a class with him, along with Titans quarterback Cam Ward. He is one of many of the Guardians' young, talented prospects, as they have a lot of young guys who are A and B potential, with Jace Laviolette, Travis Bazana, and Chase DeLauder being the top prospects in the system. Then after that though, there's a ton of younger players who are B potential who have not reached their ceilings. That will make the Guardians a much tougher rebuild than it seems, despite the fact that they just made the playoffs. That likely means that we're going to have to rebuild through the draft, and picking at number 27 is not going to make this easy. We are simming through the season, but taking a look at the draft class, I required myself to take a starting pitcher and a closer with our first 2 selections. By doing this, I'm hoping that we can rebuild the Guardians as fast as possible, and Miguel Acevedo looks like our ace of the future. While he is a bit raw at 21 years old, his potential is undeniable at 99. Then after that, we also took the best closer in the draft in Alfredo Reyes. His skill set is very similar to Emmanuel Clase, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. With this quality of draft class right out the gate, I'm really interested to see what we can do in this rebuild, and apparently so is my cat. There she is watching the screen. Along with the 2 pitchers at the start though, we also took a really good shortstop who has 97 potential, along with a corner outfielder of the future to potentially replace Steven Kwan. As I mentioned before, the farm system is one of the biggest strengths of this organization, and I feel like we just made it even better. We might have the best farm in the league now. No matter how many games and how many players we lose this season, the future of the organization looks bright. Just like in real life, the Guardians were eliminated from the playoffs in the wild card, except they finished 84-78 behind the Royals, while the Tigers did not even make the playoffs. This is a very different result than in real life, as the Royals won the World Series, beating the Cubs. Seiya Suzuki and Aaron Judge were your MVPs, while Brian Wu and Paul Skeens won the Cy Young. Then, simming to the offseason, we see that Clase and Ortiz have retired. Those are the first big losses, but now we could have a lot more. Looking at this list of free agents, I don't think we're going to bring anybody back, and given the state that our roster's in, I think it might be time to just pull the plug and start over. As far as other players who could be dealt though, we could get something for Jose Ramirez, although he's under a full no-trade clause. Now obviously that doesn't exist in MLB The Show, but I like to keep things realistic and pretend like it does. Then after that though, our third best player is Tanner Beebe, who just signed an extension last offseason, so trading him right now doesn't make any sense. At least for now, that's gonna leave Quan as our only trade chip, and we're gonna try to deal him to the Chicago Cubs. The main prospect I'm targeting from them is their former first-round pick, Ethan Conrad, who they just drafted last year. He's about as good of a corner outfielder as we're gonna get in return, but this deal is still extremely lopsided. To complete the deal, we're asking for one more key player, and that is Cade Horton. The former first-round pick just had a really nice season in Chicago, and he's the player that I want in return. He's definitely not an ace, but could be a solid number 3 or maybe another 2 in the future. Horton makes that move extremely exciting as we pull the trigger, making our first trade. The addition of Conrad gives us another promising young option in the outfield, along with Martinez, Laviolette, and then in left field, projected opening day starter Chase DeLauder. Then in the infield, there's a lot of young pieces that we still don't really know about, and the success of this rebuild is gonna depend on at least a few of them stepping up. On the bright side though, we did just acquire a young piece who we are certain is gonna be good, as Cade Horton had a good rookie season as the Cubs' number 4 starter, and he's immediately gonna become our number 2. As far as the offseason goes, I still want to add in free agency, but there's so many young guys knocking on the major league door that I don't actually think we need to bring in that much. With so much youth though, I feel like we need to bring up some insurance, and the dream prospect here would be Willie Castro. He's asking for a 2-year contract worth about $11 million a year, although I'm probably gonna offer him about 4 or 5 years. He is a really good utility player who I'd love to build the team around, even though he's coming off of a bit of a down year. He's the big fish, and then after that, I definitely want to bring in another starting pitcher, so Walker Buehler's at number 2. He would slide right in as our number 5 starter with a 72 walks per 9, and then at priority 3, we have Michael Conforto, who's just a bit of depth. We just lost Steven Kwan, so Michael Conforto is a pretty low-risk corner outfielder who could also DH. Getting a veteran player like Castro would make a huge difference moving forward, and after simming a couple weeks, the interest on him is pretty good. The Guardians are not known to spend money in free agency though, so this might be difficult, as they sign Michael Conforto to a 1-year deal and are going to try to do the same with Walker Buehler. He will get offered a 2-year, $10 million deal. We're going to see if he accepts that deal, but now we're moving on to the Rule 5 draft, where we have a chance to add another quality young player in Blaze Jordan. We already have so many infielders competing, so why not add one more? Then with our second selection and closing out the Rule 5 draft, we're taking another one of the Cubs pitchers. Our rotation now has Cade Horton and Javier Assad, as we get even younger at starting pitcher going into year 2. Even with the addition of Assad though, I still want Walker Buehler, and he signs. We get our guy on a pretty affordable deal, and that's gonna lock in the rotation. However, to close out the offseason, Willie Castro signs with the Rockies, who offered him a ton of money. There was no way the Guardians were gonna match that, so this is the roster going into year 2. There's no doubt that the offense took a hit after losing Steven Kwan to trade, but aside from Jose Ramirez, we have young players at every single position. If we have any chance to get back to the playoffs, at least a few of these guys need to step it up. It's really amazing the type of chain reaction that simply losing Emmanuel Clase has caused, as we then traded one of our best offensive players in Steven Kwan, and the game now has us ranked 27th in the league. Just keep in mind that this is a team that made the ALCS just 2 seasons ago and had the second best record in the American League. At least the good news for the Guardians though is they have a bunch of top prospects and a lot of players on the MLB roster who have room to grow. At the very top of their list though is Alfredo Ordonez, who they drafted in the 2nd round and can play pretty much anywhere on the diamond. With a lot of uncertainty at shortstop, it's really good to have a guy like him in the system, as Gabriel Arias and Brian Rocchio are both relatively unproven. We definitely struck gold in the draft class, as Ordonez is just one of 11 top 100 prospects that we have on opening day. I think it's safe to say that we have the youngest lineup in all of MLB, as aside from 33-year-old Jose Ramirez, everybody is under 30. With the lineup pretty much set, we're gonna simulate to June and see how we're doing. As expected with such a young team, we are under 500, although it's not as bad as I thought it would be. We're 28-32, and it looks like my man Kyle Manzardo is having the best season of anyone on offense. He's putting up an 881 OPS with 37 RBIs and is leading the entire team with 14 bombs. As a WSU alum, I love to see Kyle getting some production, as our 2 first baseman, him and David Fry are leading us in RBIs. Fry is definitely having a worse season, but is still putting up serviceable numbers nonetheless. As for the rest of the team though, it does look like Nolan Jones is heating up, but it's been a huge down year for Jose Ramirez, who's starting to regress. He has 3 years left on his contract, and all I can say is it would be great to win him a World Series. I don't think anybody deserves it more. As for the young guys though, we've already talked about Manzo, but then after that, it gets a little concerning with Angel Martinez struggling and pretty much everybody else after that. In terms of run support, we're near the middle of the pack, ranked 18th, with Manzo and Ramirez kinda carrying us. If there's any bright side of the team though, it's our rotation, as we're 9th in the league in ERA. During the offseason, we acquired Cade Horton from the Cubs, but he's not even the best former Cubs pitcher on the roster. At least for now, that title belongs to former Rule 5 pickup Javier Assad. He has been lights out while we're finally getting a breakout year from Gavin Williams. 4 out of 5 of our starters in the rotation currently have an ERA under 3, which is extremely encouraging. Even with our great play in the rotation though, the bullpen has been pretty inconsistent, while the offense has been lackluster. However, at least for now, I'm excited about the future, especially building around this rotation and 99 potential starting pitcher Miguel Acevedo. With the way our young offensive players are developing, this rebuild might go for a while, especially because I'm trying to rebuild it. However, it turns out that the Guardians organization makes my Mariners look like heavy spenders, and that's really not a good thing. These drafts are going to be extremely important, but the problem right now is I haven't really found any good prospects. As always, there are plenty of pitchers available, but nearly every position guy that I've scouted so far has actually gone down in rating. With only a few weeks to go before the draft, we need to find some position talent, and there we go, right at the buzzer. We just found a first baseman and a shortstop, which is very nice, so that at least gives us a few good options going into a very important draft that we have to nail. Without a doubt, my favorite position player in the class is Justin Miles, and even though he's ranked 132nd in the class, he is ranked 7th on our board, so I'd actually consider drafting him in the first round. The reason I say that is there's a chance for him to have 99 potential, although if Lorenzo de los Santos is available, he's probably gonna be my guy. We have a chance to potentially get de los Santos along with Miles and the #1 prospect in the class in Bernardo Salgado. As a discovery player, I don't expect him to go in the first round, so despite the fact that Miles is the only position player that I desperately want, we might be able to turn this class into gold. We are starting our second draft where de los Santos goes #1. As the 39th ranked player in the draft, I really thought he had a chance to drop to our selection, but instead it looks like Miles is gonna be our pick as Freitas goes at #4. He was actually my 3rd favorite option in round 1, and I would have been perfectly fine taking him. Instead though, our selection comes around, and I think Miles is the right choice. With 2 discovery guys on the board, along with Jason Morgan, who had no business falling this far, I think the smartest decision is to actually just take Justin Miles. His potential is very likely going to be in the high 90s, so we have really nothing to lose. We take our guy over 100 spots earlier than he was supposed to go, and now at number 33, I really wanted to take Salgado. Unfortunately though, he went to the A's just 2 selections before us. To make things even more complicated, with 1 discovery pitcher already off the board, I really don't want to lose Travis or Diaz, but I'm going to take the risk that they fall 1 more selection because I can almost guarantee that Diego Cabrera will not be available. I feel like he's the player who makes the most sense here, so I'm going to pull the trigger. Then simming forward, Travis is still on the board, although we lost the other guy. In a frustrating turn of events, Bartolo Diaz goes off the board at number 51, but at least we still get Travis, who we would have probably taken anyways. That's a really good value at number 54, and simming ahead, I think it's time to go back to position guys. At pick number 96, we're selecting first baseman Joaquin Garcia, as even though Kyle Manzardo looks like our first baseman of the future, we could always use more depth. Under that same logic, I know we've drafted a lot of really good shortstops, but I feel like you can never have enough, and Rocha's the best player available. Despite losing out on some of my favorite players, we've turned this into a really nice draft class, as now in round number 5, we're going to take a starting pitcher who has the chance to have 99 potential. That makes Luke Rivas a really good good value in round 5 and a risk I'm willing to take. Then in round 6, there's not much left, but there is a really good looking closer in Sean Blanco. We are still 500 at the All-Star break, and I'm actually curious who made the All-Star game. Kyle Manzardo has started to slow down after a really electric start, although he's still leading the team in every major offensive category. Once again though, with the way this offense is playing, I'm kinda shocked that we're only one game under 500. It seems that Jose Ramirez is slowly starting to get things back together with an 820 OPS, but even then, that's one of the worst years of his career. I said that the young players would be a key, and as far as I'm seeing it, nearly every single one of them is disappointing. Daniel Schneemann at second base, terrible. Gabriel Arias, terrible. Brian Rocchio, struggling in AAA. These are all players that were supposed to be a part of the future, but are suddenly forcing us to go a different direction. On the bright side though, it is really nice to see Chase DeLauder starting to heat up after a really slow start to the year. The 24-year-old is one of our more important prospects, so hopefully he can continue his hot streak. While the infield has been really bad outside of Manzardo, it does look like the outfield has been much better. Martinez and DeLauder are both on hot streaks, while Nolan Jones is having a bounce-back season. He is just 3 years removed of an all-star season with the Rockies, and I'm interested to see if he can get anywhere near that level again. The Guardians have been one of the weirdest teams in all of baseball, as the offense has been incredibly strange, and our rotation is 8th in the league in ERA. All of this success on the mound is coming without having a lot of highly rated players, as guys like Gavin Williams, Cade Horton, and Javier Assad have made their case for a Cy Young. I'm really anxious to see if the offense can step its game up in the second half, but before we get there, I do want to check out the All-Star voting, as sure enough, Manzardo is our only representative. We're gonna sim out all of July, likely not making a move at the deadline, and at the start of August, we have gotten even worse at 54 and 58. After making it to the ALCS game 2 seasons ago, this is not what Guardians fans had in mind for their future, but hopefully they can get some more good news from this MLB draft, and there we go. In the first round, we grabbed my favorite position player, Justin Miles, who looks to be a really strong part of our future. He is a contact hitter with 96 potential who can play all over the infield. That is a really strong addition, and then after that, we grabbed a couple decent pitchers, as Darren Travis is 72 overall. I do have to say though, we might have reached for Diego Cabrera, who's coming in at 55 overall and only 86 potential. While that may not seem bad, we took a risk waiting for the number 1 player on the board, and Bernardo Salgado is extremely good. I definitely overthought that one and paid the price, as the discovery player goes earlier than I thought. I will say though, we did make up for it in the rest of the draft, taking a 93 potential first baseman and getting our second 99 potential pitcher of the video. Luke Rivas was an incredible value in the 5th round, and I'm glad we ended up with him. While it certainly could have been better, this was another successful draft class, adding to the best farm system in the league. Now we're gonna simulate the rest of the season, but before we do, I want to make one key move. With our bullpen kinda struggling and Emmanuel Clase behind bars, I really want to make sure we lock down Cade Smith. While he's definitely having a down year, I do want to invest in his long-term future, as he is 92 overall with A potential. We are offering him a 5-year extension worth about $9 million a year, which he will accept. That will give him the 3rd biggest contract value on the team, only trailing BB and Ramirez. With that move out of the way, I think it's time to put a cap on this pretty disappointing season, as we flirted with 500 for most of the year, but we're ultimately gonna finish under it at 80 and 82. That is good for 3rd place in a pretty weak AL Central. And just checking out the stats, I'm looking for reasons for optimism for the future, as Kyle Manzardo was really good, but it also feels like Angel Martinez and David Fry were solid contributors as well. Outside of those guys and J-Ram though, Nolan Jones was pretty up and down, and the rest of our young players were extremely disappointing. This rotation was the only thing that stopped us from being one of the worst teams in the entire league, as the decision decision to move Steven Kwan for Cade Horton last offseason is proving to be a smart move for both sides. Then Javier Assad was a really nice pickup from the Rule 5 draft, while Gavin Williams continued on his real-life success in 2025. Not a single member of the starting five had an ERA under 4, which is awesome, and it does seem that the bullpen got better over time. As a result, we finished 4th in the league in team ERA, offense was just not acceptable, tied for 19th in total runs, and we simply did not get the development we needed from most of the offensive core. After watching the Royals win the World Series last season, the Mariners won it this year, with Josh Naylor being named the World Series MVP. In this simulation, Seattle actually managed to resign him, and I'm really hoping that works out in real life. Aaron Judge's streak of winning MVP is over, as he's overtaken by Vinny Pasquantino of all people, while in the National League, Ohtani wins it once again. Then looking at the Cy Young, the Mariners repeated as Cy Young winners once again, with Bryce Miller taking it, and then in the National League, Paul Skeens repeats. Starting out the offseason, Michael Conforto is our only free agent, which is definitely a good thing, although he is not going to be the only player on the move. Last year in free agency, we also brought in Walker Buehler on a 2-year contract, and he managed to resurrect his career in Cleveland and now has a bit of trade value. Despite having a good season, he's not going to be a part of our long-term future, so considering we finished under 500, I think it makes sense to get whatever we can get for him right now. While the Athletics have a really good offense, they're still looking to add another starting pitcher, so this can be a really fitting move for both sides, especially because they drafted a player that I really wanted. I had a chance to draft Bernardo Salgado, but for some reason opted against it, so I'm gonna see if we can acquire him for Walker Buehler and Diego Cabrera. We cannot. I'm not gonna be able to correct my mistake that easily, although there's another pitcher that I would also be interested in. Anthony Hiller is 22 years old, but he's 69 overall, and I actually like his numbers just as much, if not slightly more than Salgado. He currently has a 66 walks per 9, while Salgado's is only 50. That being said, we're gonna throw him into the deal, and that will be accepted as soon as the A's get rid of a couple players. All I'm saying is, with the farm system we've assembled, the Guardians have a chance to become a legitimate dynasty in this rebuild, as just looking at our future rotation, we have 2 99 potential guys, and also Anthony Hiller, who has, let's see, 96 potential. It really doesn't get much better than that, as through the last 2 drafts, we've done a fantastic job of assembling a really nice core of players. Add in the fact that former #1 pick Travis Bazzana should be making his debut next season, alongside Jace Laviolette, and I think the offense can turn things around. Also, with Gavin Williams hitting arbitration and wanting $10 million a year, I would also consider looking into a long-term extension for him. We are offering 5 years, $96.5 million. Since we're trying to keep this coded to the Guardians in real life, not being able to sign big free agents is gonna make our homegrown guys even more important. Down the line, I'm also gonna consider similar moves with guys like Cade Horton and Kyle Manzardo, although first base is a little bit more interesting with so much competition and many more guys on the way up. As far as free agency goes, we do have a Cy Young winner on the open market in Tarek Skubal, along with some other really strong players. This would be a great year to get involved in the market. Obviously, that's not Cleveland's game, so we're gonna stay out of it once again. As far as our needs go, I'm not gonna bring back Ben Lively, so we could use a #5 starter, although checking out the current roster, I think that Tristan McKenzie could plug in there quite nicely. After a few years being a long reliever, I think it's time to bring him back to the rotation, as he actually has a really solid walks per 9. Keep in mind, he's a 74 overall reliever, but upon moving him to starter, he goes up to 82. That is about as good of an addition as we're gonna get, but he's also a lot cheaper than players we could get on the market who are just as good. I will say though, if we could spend money, I would go after Shane Bieber. It would be very fitting for him to reunite with the Guardians after 2 seasons in Toronto, and he's actually not looking for that much money. As tempting as this move is, I don't think it makes sense for Cleveland, so we're moving forward without offering a single contract in week 1. Aside from trading Walker Buehler, I think that might have been the most uneventful offseason we've ever had, so just to add some spark, we are adding Travis Bazzana to the opening day roster. After last year, Daniel Schneemann showed us all that he is nothing more than a utility man, and needing an immediate upgrade at second base, Bazzana's gonna be the guy. That will will make a young lineup even younger, as we have CJ Kafis hitting 5th and Bizana batting 8th. Then in the rotation, we effectively just replaced Walker Buehler with 29-year-old Tristan McKenzie. He has not been the same player ever since 2022, but we're trying to turn back the clock and get some of that magic back. I do want to mention that we have a really good rotation, so this needs to be the year that the rest of our offense steps up. We have way too many former top prospects in this group for us not to be playing well, and Jose Ramirez deserves a lot better in his age 34 season. He's gonna start regressing sooner rather than later, so Kyle Manzardo cannot be our only other contributor. If guys do not step up this year, we're pretty much gonna be waiting for the farm system, and while we have 15 top 100 guys, most of them are not even close to the show. I do want to talk more about the farm before we start the season, as we have top 100 players at pretty much every position. This includes 3 starting pitchers, 1 closer, and then in the infield, we have a guy at first base, second base, and then 2 shortstops. That is essentially a whole lineup of top 100 guys, including Chase DeLauder, who was on the list last year. The best case scenario for this team is that our current offensive guys step up, while our prospects come up later to supplement the team. That is the biggest reason that the draft remains important, as we have the number 14 overall pick. That is the highest we've selected so far, so we definitely want to take advantage. Going back to the season though, we are once again flirting with 500, so it seems like the same season we had last year. At the start of May though, everything changed, as we're 19-14. Right off the bat, this offensive production is looking a lot more balanced than last year, as Manzardo's having another really good year, along with Bo Naylor and the rookie Travis Bizana. There's a long way to go, but this is notable offensive improvement, and I'm hoping the rest of the team can follow. We have a huge opportunity to extend our lead in the AL Central, although we're kind of struggling. We do win a series against the Dodgers, but we've lost a lot more games, and suddenly the Twins are right behind us. We've got to pick things up, as Kyle Manzardo's fallen into a bit of a cold streak after a fast start, similar to what happened last year, although Travis Bizana is still raking and might be our new best offensive player. That is a huge deal for the former number 1 overall pick out of Oregon State, as the Aussie player is nearly 80 overall. On top of that, it's been a really nice bounce back year for Chase DeLauder, who flashed at times last year. This improvement from Cleveland has been drastic, as they're 12th in runs scored and are also ranked 12th in hits. This year though, the weird reality for Cleveland is they've gone from 4th in team ERA all the way down to 26th. So far, the choice to extend Gavin Williams is not working out well for us, as he's been the worst member of our rotation. Then add in the down year from Tanner Beebe, and I am a little concerned about the future. I am crossing my fingers that the consistency will come as they get off to a good start in July. However, now it's time for the MLB draft. We have a really good opportunity here to add another quality player, with my number 1 target being starting pitcher Reggie Fiore. I did not find a position guy worth taking at number 14, so it's gonna be another starting pitcher heavy class. The top 5 players in this class are all starting pitchers, and I'd be fine with any one of them, but there are still some really solid position guys in this class that I'm excited about later down the board. Out of all of them though, my favorite of the bunch is shortstop and utility man Arlen Cantrell. I feel like we've drafted this same player 2 years in a row, and we're looking to make it 3. I will never turn down positional versatility and a really good value. Simming to our first selection at number 14, it looks like Fiore went at number 11. I will say though, that is perfectly fine, because my second favorite option is Johnny Young. And now I'm hoping that my shortstop lasts to number 50. We are simming ahead, and sure enough, Cantrell is still on the board, and I'm not gonna waste any time taking him. In a big sigh of relief, we're able to get our guy and can now focus on the rest of the class. We started things off taking a pair of good outfielders before taking a bit of a hidden gem in Brad Lombardo. He's definitely a raw player, but as a switch hitter with good potential, I cannot pass him up in round 5. That is gonna wrap up another really good draft class, as we close things out with a starting pitcher and then advance to the All-Star break, where we're 55-42. We are having a much better season than I expected, although although I will say that our division is really helping us out. I feel like if Gavin Williams can get back to where he was last year, along with the rest of the rotation, then the offense has done more than enough to probably get us to the ALDS at least. It feels like everything is clicking with the additions of rookies CJ Kafis and Travis Bazzana, while Bo Naylor was an all-star having a career season, while David Fry is heating up and continues an impressive year himself. Then further down the list, there's the most dependable guys on the team in Jose Ramirez and Kyle Manzardo. While there's certainly room for improvement, they have been alright, while the rest of the lineup has definitely shown flashes. I do have to admit fault and say that the Tristan McKenzie experiment has really not worked out the way that I was hoping for. It seems there was a really good reason he got moved to the bullpen, as if we look at his recent games, it actually hasn't been all that bad, with the exception of his last start against Atlanta. That was an absolute nightmare. Going into the second half though, I definitely want to prioritize getting a fifth starter at the deadline. While this would certainly not be a blockbuster deal, I'm curious what else is out there, and JP Sears is putting together a really nice season. At 79 overall with an ERA under 3, this is somebody who I'd really like to bring in, especially because he doesn't hit free agency for a long time. The Padres bolstered their pitching depth, acquiring Tarek Skubal in the offseason to go along with Michael King and Joe Musgrove. That being said, Sears is not really somebody they need to keep around, and it really shouldn't cost too much to get him. I'm gonna try throwing in Ralphie Velasquez, and that's a solid 1-to-1 deal. Sears will give us a consistent lefty starter, which is definitely something we needed. We're gonna see how that affects the rest of our season, as we're 62-49 at the start of August, and that also means that it's time to view our draft class and see what we have in year 3. After not being sure how to feel about draft 2, I feel like we did a lot better in draft 3, and the numbers are certainly backing that up. We stayed true to our board, taking Arlen Cantrell 50 picks earlier than he was projected, and taking Johnny Young at number 14. That definitely paid off, as they have mid-90s potential and are 57 overall. Then after that, we took a 91 potential first baseman and an 87 potential center fielder, before closing out striking gold with 3 players with potentials in the mid-90s. That is how we do it. That's gonna make a farm system with 15 top 100 guys, including the number 4 player, even better. We were already stacked in pretty much every area of the farm, but that draft might have just put us over the edge, and I wouldn't be surprised if we push 20 top 100 next year. Regardless of what happens the rest of the year, we're gonna be in really good shape, as we are winning a lot of games, reaching number 6-7. Kyle Manzardo is still our best offensive player, getting up to 86 overall, and these numbers are very respectable. As far as OPS goes though, I do have to give credit to CJ Kafis, putting together a really nice debut season, while Bo Naylor's having his best year probably ever. With a month left in the season, I'm feeling really good about where this team's at, especially with several other players on hot streaks. It's also worth mentioning that the rotation is a lot better with the addition of JP Sears, although Gavin Williams still cannot figure it out. He is sitting at 4 wins and 12 losses, which is a significant step back from last year. We have a 13.5 game lead entering September, so pretty much no matter what happens, we're gonna make the playoffs. All things considered, we would finish the season strong, winning out and finishing with 95 wins. Through the final couple months of the year, I felt like our performance was relatively inconsistent, but I'm really hoping that that season-ending win streak is a sign that we're starting to put everything together. Unlike last year, where Manzardo and Jose Ramirez carried the offense, I feel like things were much more well-rounded this season, as Chase DeLauder proved himself as a core piece of the future, and Travis Bazzana had a respectable rookie year. It might not seem like much, but these numbers are significantly better than what we saw at the end of last year, which I will definitely take. The offense would finish 10th in total runs scored. Unlike last year, where the rotation certainly carried us, several players certainly took a step back. The worst player of the bunch was of course Gavin Williams, who did finish the year pretty strong, but all things considered, we just signed him to a pretty good 5-year extension, so that's disappointing. The deadline acquisition of JP Sears definitely is going to help us out in October, but if we want a chance to make a run, Tanner Beebe and Cade Horton need to be on it. After a 95-win season, we are getting a first-round bye, so we're gonna see the full depth of our rotation tested in the ALDS. We won 95 games in what was a Mickey Mouse division, but now we're going to the Big Apple to take on the Yankees. This is an ALCS rematch from just a few years ago, although the Yankees are looking like a pretty different team. Both Jason Dominguez and Anthony Volpe are all grown up, and they've also signed Brandon Lowe. We're about to find out if the Guardians deserve their 95 wins, or if they're another small market team who underperforms in the playoffs. After giving up a first inning 2-run shot, we're down by 1 to the Yankees, but neither team has scored since the first inning. Right on cue though, Mountcastle launches a solo shot, so we could be doomed. This was not the game we needed from Tanner Beebe, as he gives up 3 runs, and unless something crazy happens in the 9th, the Guardians are going down. They have lost their first playoff game to New York, so we really need to win this next game before going on the road. Now with Cade Horton on the mound, we need a huge game. With 2 guys on, we cannot score them, but at least Horton is still pitching a shutout. That's gonna give us a chance as we walk the bases loaded and then don't score anybody. So we continue to strand runners on as Volpe delivers a solo shot. That is very unfortunate as Manzo does get one back, but it's feeling like a very similar story as we saw in the first game. We are down to our last chance in the 9th inning, but are unable to score, so we are 1 game away from elimination. It's gonna take us a lot of work to get back in this as Sears gives up the first run of this game, and now that we're in Yankee Stadium, I'm not feeling good about this, but they just tied it up. We've been going back and forth, and now this is our chance to score as it's 3-2. This was a really good game from JP Sears as Kafis scores another, so the series is not over yet. There's still a chance for the Guardians, although they have to win 3 games in a row. I'm making a bold decision, putting Gavin Williams on the bump, and while he did struggle for most of the year, he was one of our most productive pitchers in September. Early on, it's paying off as Travis Bazzana gives us the early lead, and Williams is shutting them down. He has only given up 2 hits through 6 innings, and our offense has a chance to extend the lead. Unfortunately though, they cannot get that done, although it's been a great day for Williams. That could ultimately make all the difference, as in the 9th inning, Cade Smith cannot put them away. We were so close to securing the shutout victory, but now it's 4-1, and it looks like we're gonna run away with it anyways. We made this a little more dramatic than it needed to be, but we're going to Game 5. After facing so much adversity all year, Gavin Williams delivered with a 7-inning, 11-strikeout performance, only giving up 4 hits and 1 walk before Nolan Jones came through in the 10th inning. We have fought back thanks to back-to-back great performances from the rotation, and it all comes down to this. These 2 teams met in the ALCS just a few years ago, but this series is much more competitive, although the Yankees take the early lead. We are looking for anything to spark our offense, and thank you, Martinez. That will give us a 2-1 lead in the top of the 5th as the Yankees are unable to get anything going, and Bo Naylor might have just sealed it. What a showing from our rotation when it's mattered the most, and also the offense deserves a lot of credit for clutching up. The Guardians have officially come back from down 2-0, and they are going to the ALCS. That was not a pretty series, but if they can play anything like they did down the stretch, I think they have a ton of momentum. They're gonna need to be at their best taking on the Seattle Mariners, and just a reminder, they're the defending World Series champs, and clearly for a very good reason. They've got even better, adding Nico Horner from the Cubs, and of course, their rotation is absolutely nasty. As we've seen through this entire year of content, the Seattle Mariners are always the team I seem to be going up against, but we get off to a very good start with a 2-run Chase DeLauder home run. That is a huge deal against Brian Wu, who just won a Cy Young very recently. Breaking through him in Game 1 is a huge deal, and there's 3 runs. That's awesome. A 3-run shot from Bazzana would win us Game 1, as we pick up a huge win on the road, and simming the second game, we lose 11-8. That is gonna even things out going to Cleveland, where Gavin Williams is looking for another good start. Against this very good Seattle rotation, he's gonna need it, as there's 2 more RBIs from Bazzana. So far in this series, the Aussie has been on fire, and that could make all the difference in game number 3. We shut out Seattle 3-0 in front of our home crowd. And again, I gotta give a big shout out to Gavin Williams, who's overcome a lot of adversity this year. He is one of the big reasons we're here, as Seattle evens it out once again. So Game 5 is gonna be really important, and we do get a 1-0 victory. That means we are just 1 win away from beating a really good Seattle team and punching our ticket to the World Series. We're gonna need to be at our best though against Kirby, but Bazzana has been even better. He comes through with a home run before Kafis puts us up 3-0, and that could do it. While Seattle has a really good rotation, their offense is not nearly as good, as we are once again looking to shut them out with JP Sears on the mound. We are 2 innings away from this being over, but Horner is going to make it interesting, as it's a 1-run game in the 9th inning, and we do get the save. Cade Smith is able to close them out, winning the pennant for the Guardians and sending them to the World Series. What an effort from a team that started out down 2-0 against the Yankees and now takes care of business against the 1-seed Mariners. We are taking on the Cincinnati Reds in the World Series, and that's kind of a surprise. You would think this would be a team like the Dodgers, the Phillies, maybe the Cubs or the Brewers, but instead we're getting Cincinnati. To be fair, they do have Elly De La Cruz along with a really elite rotation at the top end, so I'm interested to see how this is gonna go. Bo Naylor was postseason MVP, although just looking at the RBI numbers, it feels like it should have been Bazana. Then on the Red side though, Spencer Steer was really hot, and I do have to give a lot of credit to our offense because while they could be more consistent, they have delivered so many huge home runs despite the fact that Ramirez has not had a good October. Just imagine how insane a World Series would be that stays in Ohio, especially considering that Cleveland has not won a World Series since 1920. On the other side though, the Reds have not won it since 1990, and they take the lead. Just like we saw in the series against Seattle, this is a close game as we take the lead once more, and scoring 3 runs off of Hunter Green is a really big deal in Game 1. Now we're trying to close them out though, and the bullpen gets out of a jam, and here's Cade Smith trying to close them out, which he does so successfully. The combination of our rotation and our bullpen will win us the first game, and now we're going to simulate Game 2, which we also managed to win. Every single team we've faced has had a really good rotation, especially at the top end, but we've matched up against them very well. We're trying to continue that with Gavin Williams, although it seems he's turned back into a pumpkin. He gives up 2 runs in the first 2 innings of the game, and then there's another in the 4th. We would go on to lose our first game of the series 5-2, and the Reds have a great opportunity to get back in this with 3 games in a row at home. They would tie up the series, so now we need a big game from JP Sears in the offense, and there it is, although their offense is gonna answer. We are throwing Sears into the fire, but thankfully there's a 3-run shot. Kyle Manzardo makes his case for World Series MVP, and there's 2 more runs. With deadline acquisition JP Sears on the mound, we take down Hunter Green and are 1 win away from the World Series title. We have relied on homegrown players in this rebuild, and we're going back to Cleveland for games 6 and 7. I see you typing 6-7 in the comments, don't do it. From the beginning of this rebuild, I made it very clear that I didn't want to trade Jose Ramirez and wanted to give him a World Series before he retires. We are 1 game away from making that a reality, thanks in part to some key moves throughout the rebuild. First and foremost, trading Stephen Kwan for Cade Horton is proving to be an extremely smart decision, and I would even argue that we won that trade. The Cubs made a World Series with Stephen Kwan, although they did not win it, and we're about to win one with Cade Horton. The main reason I made this video though was the indictment of Emmanuel Clase, and I do have to give a lot of credit to Cade Smith for stepping up as the closer, as he is 95 overall and has earned himself a really nice extension. Even if we don't win the World Series this year, I feel like the future is extremely bright in Cleveland, in part because of a few offensive pieces becoming stars. First and foremost, my classmate at WSU, Kyle Manzardo's coming off a 32-bomb, 105 RBI season, and we wouldn't be here without him. Then there's Chase DeLauder, who's a potential at 85 overall, along with our catcher Bo Naylor, who's really not been good the past couple years, did revive his career this season. Not to mention, the rookies Travis Bazana and CJ Kafis have been huge in the playoffs. That's not even mentioning the rookies Travis Bazana and CJ Kafis, who have been electric throughout the season and especially in the playoffs. Whether they win or lose this World Series, it really feels like this Guardians team is bound for a dynasty, but the real question is, when's it gonna start? They could start it right now with their first World Series win in 127 years, and they must have just heard me. They were down 1-0, but score 3 runs in the 6th, and now 4 runs in the 7th inning. This one is over. I took over the Guardians without Luis Ortiz and Emmanuel Clase, and through a combination of developing their homegrown talent and some key trades, we have won them a World Series in just 3 seasons. This was definitely one of my more unique rebuilds, but I had a great time turning this team into a dynasty. And if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe, and also click right here to see more of my content.